Game Boy Advanced SP Blue Edition. Creepypasta. It all started 53 years ago, back when I was a fully grown little boy. One day, while I was jumping through the street, I happened upon a large car, which clobbered me violently into a nearby window. After getting my bearings, I looked up to see a young boy with a Game Boy Advance SP Blue Edition in his tiny little hands. I had always dreamed of owning a Game Boy Advance SP Blue Edition, but my family could barely even afford gold. He looked up at me with those big, vibrating eyes. His two lower teeth quivered in confusion. Meh, he said softly. This was my chance. I ran at him, screaming and stomping my feet, scrambling his brain in sheer confusion. I shoved at him as hard as I could and grabbed his Game Boy Advance SP Blue Edition. And I ran out the door. I leaped back down the street towards my home. I pulled open the door by its big, smelly handle, and I let myself in quietly. I snuck past my many parents and shut myself into my room. I had made it. Finally, a Game Boy Advance SP to call my own. I will have to keep it hidden from my family. I shouldn't ever allow them to know. I took the Game Boy SP in my small, beautiful hands and proceeded to slide the switch to on mode. I will never forget that wonderful sound it made the first time I turned it on. And that wonderful Nintendo logo splashed my screen in sheer delight. I blew out my candle, pulled my curtain shut tight. I wanted absolutely nothing to get in the way of my first Game Boy Advance SP Blue Edition experience. Suddenly, a man appeared on screen. Shortly after, the word Mario started flashing behind him. I had seen adverts showing him on television. The title of the screen slowly lowered itself in from the top of the screen. Super Mario and the Legend of the Stolen Game Boy Advanced SP Blue Edition? My heart sank as I noticed a dead pixel in the lower left region of the screen. Beggars can't be choosers, I thought to myself. However, I pressed the button with my fingy. A vast landscape with clouds and bricks appeared before my very eye, and there he was, the familiar Mario Man I had grown to enjoy. I pushed left on the left button. Mario himself dashed to the left. Dust between his silly brown shoes filled the air. Amazed by his speed, I quickly pushed right to test his turning abilities. I was not disappointed, as Mario changed direction in a matter of seconds. I learned the other button functions as I played. B allowed Mario to dash at high speeds, similar to my own. A allowed him to leap so high in the sky that I screamed in fear. Perhaps, maybe he wouldn't come back down. Yet he always did, which engaged me in the game world even further. I quickly grasped the concept of jumping large gaps, avoiding enemies, and climbing a big flagpole at the end of each level. I got to the 4th level without much problems. I looked into a nearby mirror and smiled at myself. With one eyebrow raised, and I said loudly, "Does this game think I am not good? I can handle anything it throws my way. Ah, ha, ha." Suddenly, the screen turned black, and I don't just mean black, I mean so black. The screen looked like a big, deep hole. I said out loud, "Is this a hole I see before me?" It echoed like a hole. I wiped a large chunk of sweat from my flopping brow. That was weird, I thought, in a big bubble next to my head. The level loaded, but this time it took a lot longer. Mario stood in place, so I pushed right. He began running. I also noticed the graphics were getting all jumbly. Also, the music was playing less like the Mario theme, da 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 da, and more garbled like. I was nearing the first gap of the stage to jump over. As I drew closer, I readied my sweating pink thumb over the A button. The gap was here. I pushed the button, but Mario didn't jump. He just screamed, "Ah!" I pushed left as far as I could, and he grounded to a halt right at the edge of the gap. I pushed A frantically and repeatedly to try and make him jump, but he just screamed and screamed. "Ah!" This camera zoomed in on my face as I pummeled that A button, trying to make Mario fill that air above his body. But all that filled the air were my friend Mario's screams of fear. I said no more. I pulled the cartridge from the Game Boy Advance SP and threw it out my window. It landed in some mud outside and I laughed and closed my window. I turned around and I saw that the cartridge was back in my Game Boy. Mud oozed from the cartridge slot. I gasped and said to myself, "No, it cannot be." The Game Boy turned itself back on. Mario's face appeared in hyper-realistic skin pores and bloody chapped lips. He spoke softly. "You stole me from my human. Now, Mario of Nintendo of America Incorporated. Curse you forever." I screamed aloud, louder than an eagle of the night. There must be a way to undo this curse. I decided the only way to rid myself of this curse was to beat the game. I ran up to the first gap of the level. I pushed A, and Mario just screamed again. I fell into the hole and Mario lost a life. This is when I began to notice my skin began to rot and turn slightly green. "What on earth is happening, Mario?" I asked Mario.
Shit, I lagged out of the call.
Go back to playing. "Every life you lose, I will make you right. Ha ha ha." I asked, "How can I beat the game with only screams? I cannot jump gaps by screaming." "Fuck you," Mario said quietly. I screamed, "Ah!" I decided not to beat the game in fear of me rotting. I decided that I was going to do the right thing. I ran out of my room, pushing my feeble mother out of my way in the hallway. I ran down the street to the boy's house. Thunder bellowed and rain pitter-pattered on my crying face. Finally, I reached the house. I leapt up to the boy's window and let myself in. The room was dark. "Boy!" I cried out. "Boy, are you there?" I turned on the light switch. As the room lit up, I saw many people dressed in black. They all cried softly. "Who the flip are you people?" I asked with the tears running down my chinny chin. "We are this boy's family," one woman replied. "I was his mother." She pointed into the center of the room, where a small, white coffin was suspended over a hole. My heart sank. "Is your boy inside that box?" I asked with an eyebrow raised and a finger on my chin. "Yes. A crazed person broke into our home, ravaged our son, and stole his childhood by killing him." Everything went slow. I dropped to my knees. I held the Game Boy tightly in my clenched fist. "Could this be my fault?" I asked myself politely. His mother walked over to me with a big fat tear in her eye. She told me, "It really means a lot that a stranger would let himself into our home to pay respects to a boy he didn't know. I'm sure you two would have gotten along great." She then pointed to the priest and said, "Please lower our child into the earth now." The priest did just that. He pulled on a lever with a shiny red ball on it. The coffin started going down. I shoved the mother from and I sprinted toward the coffin. I jumped on that coffin and the rope snapped. I began falling into the earth with the child inside. I heard the screams from his family echoing above. I pried open the coffin. As we fell, I shoved the Game Boy into his tiny, cold mouth. "Free me of this cursed child!" I screamed at the top of my head. I noticed that we weren't hitting the bottom, and that the darkness in this hole reminded me of the dark I saw on the Game Boy. Could this be what I saw before? From the darkness, a floating black-white head of Mario appeared. He said to me, "In this hole you shall fall with the dead body of a child." Ha ha, he said, then he saw and blurred away. "This is what I get for stealing, I guess," I said as I shrugged. Suddenly, Mario appeared again. He said, "Wow, it sounds like you've learned your lesson. You'll now be free. Bye." He clicked his mustache and I was back in my room. I looked over on my bed and the Game Boy Advance SP Blue Edition was gone. My mother opened the door and she said, "My son, my beautiful son, I make you eggs and toast." She threw it on my bed and left with a smile on her face. I realized maybe stealing not okay. I looked to the sky and said, "Thank you, Mario," inside Game Boy. Everything would be alright, and though the child remained permanently dead, his mother could always play his Game Boy Advance SP Blue Edition to remember him by. Thanks to me. That's it. That was the entire thing.
I messed up far too many times.
Can we get a round of applause, everyone? For the Andrew, bud, what do you have to say?
Big Snake.
I agree. Thank you all so much for watching this shit show. Bye, I guess. I don't know how to end this. Like, all I have is a picture of what is supposed to be the creepypasta. Like, it's a white picture of Mario's head with a bleeding eye, red eye, a white coffin, and a Game Boy Advance Blue SP Edition. SP Blue Edition. Like, fuck it. Whatever. Bye.
Big Snake.
Fuck you. Paul, any last words?
Baby penis.
I fucking suck at guitar.
Okay. Remember, kids, don't steal.